Hey, Al, as promised, I'm going to go through some of the review problems from the first benchmark review. This is problems 1 through 13 because those are the types that will be on the first benchmark coming up this week. So you don't have to watch the whole thing. It'll be a little bit longer than normal because I'm going to go through all of the 13 problems. Just skip to the ones that you had the most trouble with. The answers I have in class, so there's no reason that you can't just check those quick and then come watch the video and get the explanations of the ones that you didn't really get. So here goes. The first one asks for the distance between the points below. So distance is going to indicate to us to use the distance formula. And as I recommended a long time ago when I instructed the distance formula, you should always write it. This way we don't make mistakes the more times you write it. So we'll find the coordinates of these points. This guy is at -4, 2, and this one is at 4, -3. I'll label one x1, y1, label the other x2, y2, and then we could go ahead and plug in. Plug and chug time. So x2 minus x1, don't forget any negatives, plus y2 minus y1, don't forget the squareds. Simplify inside the parentheses. 4 minus -4 is 8. Don't forget the squared. -3 minus 2 is -5. Again, don't forget the squared. Notice I keep writing the square root sign because I'm not done with it. I haven't done the square root yet. 8 squared is 64. -5 squared is positive 25. Any negative number squared is always going to be positive. I add these two guys together. And then I can approximate the square root of 89. It's going to be just bigger than 9. So I had to pause and do a little calculation. Square root of 89 is approximately 9.4. So those 2 points are approximately 9.4 units apart. Here we want to find the length of segment NL. That's the whole segment. We're told that M is the midpoint. Just because we see the word midpoint doesn't mean we have to do midpoint formula. Look at the problem here. We have segment LM is labeled 9K minus 4. Segment MN is 6K plus 5. Knowing that M is the midpoint tells us that these two segments are congruent. M divides LN into two congruent parts. So these two segments are equal, so we can set their lengths equal to each other. And then we can solve for K. Now let's make sure that we answer the question. We want to know the length of ln, so K is not our answer, but it will help us. I'm going to choose just one of these to plug back into because they should both be the same. So I'll plug K equals 3 in here, so 6 times 3 plus 5 gives me 18 plus 5 gives me 23. So MN is 23. That means LM is 23. So if we add them both together, we get the length of NL is 46. Number 3, we're told that angle 1 and angle 2 are supplementary. Supplementary means they add up to 180 degrees. So that means that this measure of angle 1 and this measure of angle 2 should add together and equal 180 degrees. We're going to solve for y, and then we can calculate the measure of angle 2. So when we get y, that's not going to be our final answer. I'm going to combine my like terms. I know people are making some mistakes here. This is 12y plus 4y, which gives me 16y. I got a positive 10 plus negative 6 gives me positive 4. And now I can solve and I'm going to have to pause here and do a little calculation. So we get y equals 11, and we want the measure of angle 2, so we're going to plug back in for 4y minus 6. So the measure of angle 2 is 4 times 11 minus 6, which is 44 minus 6, which is 38. Here we want to calculate the length of a segment. Length is the same as distance. So this is almost exactly the same as number 1. We have coordinates of the endpoints of the segment. We can just find the distance between those 2 points, starting by writing the distance formula. Remember, this is a formula you need to know for the test. I will not give it to you. I'll label this x1, y1, this one x2, y2, and we're off to plug and chug. 5 minus negative 2 squared plus 10 minus 6 squared. We get 7 squared plus 4 squared, which is 49 plus 16. So I'll pause here and I will find the square root of 65. It is approximately 8.1. So I round it to the nearest tenth. In this problem, we're given a segment that has one end point at 2, 3 and a midpoint at negative 1, 7. We want to know the coordinates of the other endpoint. So this is going to indicate to us to use the endpoint formulas. There's 2. We need to find the x value of the endpoint by doing 2xm minus x1. We'll find the y value of the midpoint by doing 2 times ym minus y1. x1, y1 comes from the endpoint that we're given, so x1, y1 is right there. xm, ym, those are the coordinates from the midpoint. So we can plug in 2 times xm minus x1. It's negative 2 minus 2, which is negative 4. 2 times ym minus y1 gives us 14 minus 3, which is 11. And we are not finished until we put those two things together in coordinate form. There's the coordinates for the other endpoint of that segment. So this problem, we're looking for the angle formed by the 2 handles of these checkered flags. That might get a little confusing, that description. Look, y is labeling this angle right there. So let's make this easier on ourselves. We can redraw this picture without all the distractions. So we know this angle up here is 35 degrees. That angle is y degrees, and I think that makes this picture look way simpler. Those are vertical angles. Vertical angles are congruent, so that means if this one's 35, then y is also 35 degrees. So sometimes it's helpful to get rid of the distractions, get rid of the checkered flags, get rid of this line down here if it's not needed. The 125 won't help us right now. All we need to know is that the angle that's 35 degrees and the angle that's y degrees are vertical angles, so they're the same. We want to know which point's the greatest distance from the origin. There's that word distance again. We're going to use the distance formula. You could draw a coordinate plane and plot these points and see which one's further. Remember that the distance formula comes from the Pythagorean theorem. That's a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And this a and this b, those are the values of how far apart are the x values, how far apart are the y values. So the x2 minus x1 and the y2 minus y1. So instead of doing the distance formula 4 times, we can plug in x2 minus x1, y2 minus y1 for a squared and b squared and see which one of these choices gives us the biggest a squared plus b squared. Because that will certainly give us this biggest value for c squared, and subsequently it'll give us the biggest value for c. So -8 and 0. Let's make a note too that the origin has coordinates 0, 0. So that means this is 8 units away from 0. So 8 squared plus 5 squared is 64 plus 25, which is 89. 9 squared plus 1 squared is 81 plus 1, which is 82. 3 squared plus 4 squared is 12 plus 16, which is 28. Oops. Hope everybody caught my mistake there. 9 squared is certainly not 12. It's 9. So this is 25. I apologize. And here we have 9 squared plus 2 squared is 81 plus 4, which is 85. So in order to get the actual distance, we would have to square root all of these, but it's pretty easy to see that 89 will give us the biggest number. We want to know the measure of ABC here. That's this angle right here. Key piece of information that we have is this box. That means that angle ABD is a right angle. It's 90 degrees. So the angle we're looking for, ABC, plus angle CBD, should equal 90 degrees. So we're just going to add these two angles and set them equal to 90 degrees. Combine the like terms over here. 2x and 3x gives us 5x. And solve. So we get x is 19. That's not our answer. We're looking for the measure of ABC. That's 2x minus 5. So we'll plug in 19 for x. We'll get that. The measure of ABC is 33 degrees. Here we have a circle in the coordinate plane. We know that the center is 3, 2. That's this point. And one of the points is 1, 4. And we want to know the length of radius AB, so this segment AB. And it's probably helpful if this problem would have told you that the point is A. Yeah, we haven't really discussed what a radius is. I think that's maybe review into the circle section. So maybe you have already seen and got the discussion on what a radius is. But really we're just looking for the length, which you should know by now is distance. So we're looking for the distance between point A and B, so we can just do distance formula here. And again, I'm writing the distance formula every single time. I'll never forget it because I've written it so many times. I'll go ahead and label this x1, y1, x2, y2. Okay, those of you following along, you could also use the Pythagorean theorem here if you'd like, just like we did in one of the previous problems. So this is going to be another approximate value. The square root of 8 is approximately 2.8. So this is an example of a problem that we could do even with limited knowledge of circles, because we know the distance formula. We know that the length of the segment between these 2 points is found by using the distance formula. We've been doing that. So don't let the circle throw you off. Here we want to know the length of RT. And we know the entire segment ST is 37, SR is 2K plus 11. From segment addition, we can write that 2K plus 11 plus K minus 7 is equal to the whole thing, 37. Notice I didn't put parentheses in. I probably should. The reason it doesn't matter is because this plus sign will not change the signs of K or minus 7. So I can just go ahead and combine like terms. 2K plus K is 3K. 11 minus 7 is a positive 4. And I can keep solving. So I get K is 11. I want to know the measure of RT, the length of RT. That's K minus 7. So 11 minus 7, that means that RT is 4. Here I'm looking for the measure of angle RST, which you might notice is not labeled with anything. But I do know that this angle NSR and this angle MST, they're vertical angles, so they're congruent. That'll help me find x. And I also know that NSR and RST are a linear pair, so they should add up to 180 degrees. So let's find x first. Two things are congruent, that means they are equal. So x is equal to 8. I'm definitely not done. Let's find out how big angle NSR is. So NSR is 160 degrees. NSR plus RST should be 180 degrees. So that makes the measure of angle RST 20 degrees. You need to make sure that you're careful here answering the question. We didn't ask for X, but we needed it. We didn't ask for angle NSR or MST, although it helps. What we really want to know is RST, and that is 20 degrees. Here we want to know the coordinates of a midpoint. This is when we should be using the midpoint formula, when we're looking for the coordinates. And we're given the endpoints, so we can write the midpoint formula. We can pick one of these to be x1, y1, another to be x2, y2, and we can plug and chug and simplify until we get a coordinate. So the midpoint is 1, 4. Notice I simplified 2 divided by 2 and 8 divided by 2. I don't have an equal sign. M is just the name of the coordinate, and I have an x value and a y value in coordinate form. That's a point that is right in the middle of these 2 points. Here I'm given a whole bunch of information, some that I can label. This bit of information might look a little unfamiliar. We haven't gotten to this yet, but that means segment PR is perpendicular to segment AB. Even if you don't know what that means just yet, we can see that we have a right angle right here, so that is 90 degrees. And we do know that APD, that angle right there, is 170 degrees. And we're looking for the measure of DPD, which is that angle. So you should be marking up your picture just like this. I think it makes what we want a whole lot clearer. APD and DPB come together and they form line AP. That's a straight line, though I didn't draw it very straight. It's not as easy as it looks. Straight line or a straight angle has a measure of 180 degrees. So if APD is 170, then this missing angle that we're looking for, DPB, must be 10 degrees. So always make sure you label your picture. If this isn't big enough for you on your paper, draw it bigger so that you can write on it, draw on it, make these angle marks. And it's pretty easy to see here that this little guy needs to be 10 degrees. So I hope that helped. Remember that your benchmark is Thursday and Friday. Thursday for you even day folks, Friday for you odd day folks. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask in class, and look at the answer key that I have in class, and rewatch this video, rewind, anything you need to study. Good luck.